Hi again. I'm Yakuri, never a head freshly severed, but a manju, a bun freshly filled with sweet bean paste. A tale about the origin of manju claims it was invented by modeling after a freshly severed head of humankind. Though. Hoo hoo. By the way, I've heard of some saying, no one side without the other side. Some branches of Buddhism have set the concept named Higan, which refers to the other side far from earthly desires, against Shigan, which refers to this side, or the present world. Yeah, it's for them. The dead on the opposite side across the river. Admittedly, it seems that we, in order to remain what we are, require them as spooky and invisible entities. If finding out a black shadow on your side whose face has gotten collapsed, possibly due to gunshot by someone or himself, you must be careful or lose your valuables. Even granted that your all efforts to save your bag and wallet might be in vain, you have to hold on your life tightly at least. If finding out a phantom member among your fellows whose man-like mask has peeled off, you must be careful or he would invade the boundary of proper expectation, which the reasonable spirit has foreordained, and intrude into your bedroom with his transparent skin. Now, here is a story following. Please enjoy yourself.
The backside of S District, Ura-S-ku.
Sorry for ranting. A story about some area in Kyushu. We called that area the backside of S District, which is beyond the mountain in S District. It's called New S District formally now, but elderly people still use the backside, which contains shade of unsavory meaning. In this case, the name the backside implies an historically ostracized hamlet. High schools around here are obligated to provide their students with lectures about Burakumin or ostracized communities. I have no intention of discrimination against ostracized communities, and just a personal observation based on my own experience. A boy was lost some years ago, who was finally found as a dead body by suicide. I, born in the front side of S District, and A, born in the back side, would go to the same high school on the front side. We were friends, but a thing of the past. We were on good terms, until he started bullying some student. The student was me. They pretended not to see that. Never even a bystander. In spite of my entreaty for him, he continued punching and kicking. Because he had started it immediately, I thought it was just a fight, and hit him back at first. However, his physique greatly exceeded that of mine. He hit me at the next day, without warning and any reason. I asked him why, but never received any answer. I was absolutely scared because he hit me with a half smile. One day, A stopped coming to school, which made me quite happy. But there was no one talking to me in that situation. I had never felt as much lonely as in those days. Deadly solitude in the crowded. It was one such day, while A had been absent from school for 3 weeks, that my teacher called me over. Our conversation is as follows. Mister, you were familiar with A before, right? Me? Maybe, I guess not. Mister, let me see, you are bullying A, aren't you? Me? Hey? Do you mean it is either me, or him, who is bullying someone? Mister, I mean that you are. I won't leak it to anyone, nor blame you, so let's be honest. Me? Well, are you serious? I could not absolutely understand my teacher's point, at that time. He was convinced that I was bullying A. Therefore, I told him the truth. Me, I hate to bring this up, but it is me who was bullied by him. I was suffering from his punching and kicking, moreover, in front of everyone. Mr. Is that true? You were a victim? Were other students watching it? Me, they were. In the first place, why did you thought I was bullying him? Mr. Well. No, it is nothing. Something was apparently wrong with the teacher's behavior at this point. He seemed to be unsettled about something, then both of us continued to be quiet for a few minutes. After that, he said suddenly, Mr. A is absent from school. I don't know why, but he has seemed to refuse to come to school, and his parents insisted that he was not home when I called. I kept silent. Mr. And when I could finally contact him yesterday, I listened to him about lots. He told me that he was scared of you. Me, really? Fear of me? Mr. I never lie. He insisted on his fear of you. Me, no, fear of me? It seems inside out. I'm really scared of him. Mr. Okay, I finally got it. But let me confirm to make sure, you never bullied him, correct? I confirmed it, got released, and came home. I would have thought that bullying was something, in which the majority would execute someone isolated. I had caught sight of someone bullied in my junior high school days, which impressed me with a typical bullying. And I had mostly caught sounds that it was a byword for bullying, that the majority would extort money from one person, or denude him in a restroom. I had never dreamed that the one would gain the teacher over, in order to bully and isolate the other. I conceived a murderous design of someone for the first time in my life. I wanted to kill him, ain't no joke. I was absent from school since the next day. I had no intention to go and would be alone even if I went. However, because of my watching something unbelievable during my refusal to school, I was almost going nuts. It was killing oneself by jumping that happened. Someone jumped from the apartment where I lived, which happened while I was waiting for the elevator in the hall. I heard of a strange voice yelp, and a sound in a few seconds like boom. It seemed that the source of the sound boom fell to a roof of a bicycle shed. When I glanced at the body, I really shed my tears and felt like vomiting. Although patient with one located indoor such as a company, I can never take an elevator located in, for example, an apartment. Because what happens outside could jumps into my eyes. Indeed, I have caught a sight of something absolutely unbelievable. I had been looking down the bicycle shed, but at the moment when I turned my face ahead, winding stairs came into the view. There was someone standing with the same clothes and hairstyle as the body who fell down, but the latter seemed a subtly different person. Probably, I should not have seen that. He went down the winding stairs slowly, very slowly with his face down. The exactly same as the person who had fallen down. At that moment, I heard of a sound giving a signal that an elevator had come, peep, so I was startled to turn my head back. There was the same one, I think. He was there, but not certain. Although I wonder now if he was there, at that time I thought he was. And at the moment when I looked back, I heard of the sound like boo-hum, again. But now from the interior of the elevator, boo-hum, boo-hum. Again and again. It seems that I got crazy and fell down. I was soon taken to a hospital. The doctor told me to forget what I heard and watched, and prescribed medicine. After that I had to utter a moan for a week. In spite of my better state in appearance in about a week, I was deceiving my parents and the doctor. I never recovered from the illness. On the contrary, the sound boom had followed me around from those days. After that, I remembered the existence of A when I thought of going to school. It is because of A that I had such a terrible experience in the first place. If he did not start such a bullying, I never had to suffer damage like that. I wished he would be gone. I thought seriously. Got it, I should depend on the sound boom. I must have been out of my sanity as hell. I was seriously offering up prayers to the owner of that sound. I went to school the next day and told my teacher that I wanted to leave early at lunch break. Because knowing my condition, the teacher gave me okay instantly. A was still absent at the day. When going home, I met a middle-aged man who had given a lecture in school before about an ostracized community. He was A's uncle, who I had met several times to talk with. However, when we met that day, his attitude to me was obviously suspicious. We exchanged greetings at first, but he glanced at me like a double take, and said, "Ah," or other. I wondered if he was imbued with something strange by A, so that I lost my temper like a paranoid, decided to ignore him, and started to cross right in front of him, who took an odd behavior. At that moment, he suddenly started to chant the Buddha's name or other, in a low voice. I was startled, and looked back the man. Because, as soon as we met, he said, "Ah," assumed a weird attitude, and started to chant a sutra at me in the end. For the first time in my life, I hit someone on my own free will. I am afraid that it might sound like a justification, but because I had been emotionally exhausted, I did not suffer from any guilty conscience. I gave myself merely to my frustration. He seemed to be frightened by what happened suddenly, crouched down, and groaned or other, but I continued to kick him without regard. Partly just because he was one of A's relatives, he got on my nerve, so that I continued to kick him, with saying, "Is your family a party of lunatics, hey? Are you living to catch someone in a trap? Although having said something about discrimination, you don't care of doing it by yourself? Damn it. Tell me anything. Hey. Are you sick because born at a hamlet deserved to be discriminated?" But something unexpected happened again at that time. The following is our conversation. A's uncle. Me, you weird. Suddenly started to laugh. A's uncle.
It's you.
Me, don't know what you mean at all. What's so funny? I had been continuing to kick him, but with quite weaker strength at that point. A's uncle.
I finally found you. So that's certainly for A.
Whatever he chattered on about was a sheer nonsense. Me, hey? All of your family were going to bully me. I had been getting rather scarier before that time, therefore stopped kicking. A's uncle.
Hey, I never mind whatever is your business, but it's the act of harassing. Even if my bro forgives you, I will never miss it.
Me, is your family really a clique of lunatics? Hey. A's uncle. Hold your tongue for a while. Be silent until I say okay. Me, no way. I can't understand what you. Suddenly the sound rang at my ear. I was startled to look back, found a bloody narrow face laughing with convulsion. I went nuts again. The visual performance of that face was quite odd. You cannot generally see only a lower half part of someone's face, you know? But that face was in front of me, in a state as if it would be half cut off the screen due to TV camera. At that moment, A's uncle knocked me out with all his strength. When waking up, I was put to bed not in my room, but in that of my parents, which was next to the living room. I found that it was 20 o'clock. The light was shining through from the living room, and my parents was talking with someone. I stood up, opened the door of the bedroom, and flied at the person at the moment when I saw him. There were A's uncle and aunt sitting, and talking with my parents. So that I could not stand it. Although suppressed by my father in no time. I was probably screaming. As my dim recollection tells myself. A's uncle repeated, "I'm truly sorry, again and again, but I was completely unable to forgive him, so that I was struggling in father's arms. My mother gave me a slap on the cheek, said, "You must also listen to him," but I felt that my parents betrayed me. So I got out of father's arms in order to leave home, came to my room, and took my wallet and jacket. However, because I got the feeling as there was someone's hand in my jacket at the moment when I tried to wear it, I screamed again. They came quickly, and A's aunt was started to mutter a sutra or other, and A's uncle took my jacket and started to stamp it. Father was watching it in his pale face, and mother was looking at me with her folded hands. I wondered if I really lost my senses at that time. I was getting calm in a few minutes, and came to the living room with A's uncle and aunt. During the short time before we got there, A's uncle continued apologizing me. Up to the present time, I cannot forget our conversations after that and what happened there once more. The following is our conversation. A's uncle, I must apologize from bottom my heart for punching you. Me, never mind. I was also on edge. I'm sorry. Father, what? You did something against him? Me, yes, I hit him beside myself. A's uncle, it was because I chanted a sutra to your son as soon as I saw him, which hurt his feelings. It was not his fault, but mine for having done that too suddenly. Father, on my side, I must apologize to you. I have not heard of that. Me, What are you talking about? I hit him, and he suddenly. Coming to that point, I remembered what had happened before I faint. Me, heavens. I had seen something before I lost my senses. A's uncle, I bet. I realized that there was something as soon as I met you, so that I chanted a sutra. Mother, is he all right? What do you mean about something? A's aunt, let me see, do you know why the district we live in has been called the backside? Father, well, I'm sorry if this sounds rude, but it is based on discriminatory meanings, correct? A's uncle, it's a recognition only for your side. The old often told you never to access the backside of S district, didn't they? Father, I was told. I have been thinking it was an expression of their discriminatory feelings. But is it not true? A's uncle, yes, it's true. Discrimination has certainly remained, but the reason why they still call it the back S is because of its somewhat abnormal history. Father, I know it because my wife and I were born in S district, but discrimination against an ostracized community is pretty much the same everywhere, right? So, I know what you mean by abnormality. A's uncle, ha ha ha, do you? You are just possessed with such an idea. Although back S is certainly a kind of an ostracized community, it isn't a gathering of foreigners, but of people who has lived in this area for a long time. Father, I see, but I can't understand the difference. Mother, are you talking about the Kumin, the Demon's Gate, or other? A's uncle, oh, a tale about the Kumin. Well, something like that, but there are a lot of people in back S who share the same family name with us, you know? Mother, yes, there are. It's natural for A's family and yours because you are relatives each other. Despite never seeing anyone with such a family name in S district, I can often find them out among ones born in back S beyond expectation. A's uncle, people have called the district a ghost's path for a long while. Haven't you ever heard of some name like any or other? I could not listen to what he said. Father, no, I haven't heard of any definite name, but I can understand such a concept. A's uncle, Well, it's the character of that area, and the most members from our genealogy have been said to be sensitive to spiritual things. Some of them would get crazy due to their own sensitivity to spirits, which scared of other people about the possibility that they could do awful things. Our community grew discriminated in that way. Mother, but it sounds strange to me because back S is rather wide. Could all of back S be divided from other areas in such a way due to only your family line? A's uncle, I assume so. Even though it was only 3 or 4 families which lunatic appeared in at first, it spreaded to the whole village, and 40 or 50 cases occurred finally. So, people probably felt that something was abnormal about the whole district. There are fewer people who believe in such a ridiculous story devoutly up to the Showa era. Father, nevertheless, I wonder if it became an ostracized community because of such a reason. A's uncle, well, it has been told so in our family line. So that we educate our children on the premise that they can see the spirits. Even though some can't see the spirits, we tell our children that they certainly exist. Me, by the way, how is my experience related to your story? A's uncle, excluding he struck at you suddenly, something has been wrong with A in these days, right? Me, in these days? I have no idea, if excluding it. A's uncle, didn't he say about anything? Me, without a word. I can't understand what he wanted. Oh, I see. Do you mean that he suddenly went crazy because he had become able to see ghosts? A's uncle, no, he was sane. But he didn't know what to do. Me, hey? He was never sane. He struck at me suddenly, moreover with laughing. Everyone was afraid of him and never even tried to save me. A's uncle, you didn't wound when he hit you, Of course, it's not moral for him to have punched you. I am not going to cover up for him about it. The act of laughing is what we do as a counter move, when we come across the spirits. So, we usually neglect them, in order not to be considered insane. Mother, that is to say, was our son possessed by the spirits? A's uncle, they are still doing. Can you see anyone at the veranda? Me, what? At the veranda? At this point, I nearly lost my mind because I glanced at something which differed from what I had watched before my fainting. A's aunt, you are safe now. They can never enter here. Father, hey? What are you talking about? Neither my father, of course, nor mother could see it. A's uncle, and then, they are haunting your son. Me, I see. Because I watched someone jumping down. A's uncle, no, that was probably just a coincidence. It's the one you can see at the veranda, and you are possessed by another of bad character. Me, hey? A's uncle, strictly speaking, it's not a kind of ghosts, but we call it in our family. You should not call its name in words, otherwise it can possess you easily. I cannot remember its name now, Bara, or something. At the next moment, my mother called its name. I was speechless. Mother, so, because I have been possessed, is our son all right now? A's uncle, no, it's not such a thing, but please never call its name. Mother, it's the most painful for me that my son suffers. A's uncle, you will probably suffer furthermore, if you do. Me, stop it Mom. By the way, what the hell? Because I was cursed by the spirit, A found it and strike at me. It's nonsense. Would you do such a thing in your common sense? Should you punch someone with laughing? In order to exorcise the spirits? I was a bit puzzled and talked on and on. A's aunt, it's our fault for having told him to only do that. A's uncle, when exorcising the spirit, we must laugh at it. And pretend as if we were okay and not scared of the ghost like it. Striking at a person possessed, then the evil will go out. Of course, we need the proper sutra and ceremony, but he seemed to do it by watching others and following their example. Me, but he kicked me as well as punched. A's uncle, you're right. He was going too far. But the reason A was absent from school was that he was scared of you. Well, it means that he was scared of something cursing you. After we had continued such a conversation for a few minutes, A's aunt went to the parking garage in order to take the tools for purification, and her husband was watching around to protect me. Then, they started purification in more abnormal way than any way I had seen before. It was neither the way of purification in Shintoism, nor to beat a wood block with chanting a sutra. They just repeated a sutra with laughing. The sutra was not to chant the name of Buddha, but just to talk in a weak voice and continue muttering. And they pounded my hands several times and swept up my head. When it came to the end, A's uncle said to me, "You're all right now," and because his wife said, "You can't see it, right?" I investigated the veranda nervously and found nothing there. I started to go to school like before from the next day. However, because I could not take an elevator by myself, I always had to use it with my parents. And something odd seemed to occur to A at that day. A's father called me to say, "A is lost, did he come to your home?" It seemed that his uncle and parents asked the police to search for him and tried to do by themselves. But there was a letter to tell them that A left the house of his own accord, so that the police did not make a search. The reason why his father called me was that A had written my name, in many points in his letter. Because I had not forgiven A, even though he had struck at me for purification, I thought it never mattered to me. In the third morning after A went missing, I was knocked up by the sound, boom. Because I had been relaxed with peace of mind that it could never happen, I got soaked with a cold sweat, ran into my parents' room, and after a while found that it was just a dream. I mean that I tried to be convinced so. However, because I was told that A had committed suicide by jumping, moreover on the morning, I was getting scared at the evening, became unable to sleep alone. Because his last will was found, he seemed certainly to be suicide. He wrote the letter partly to me. I'm very sorry at that time. I think that a lot of slightly insane ones appear in our family line. Because we are born in the ostracized community. Although I don't want to put responsibility on my family line for my fault. I'm truly sorry for having struck at you. Because they hold a wake for A at the following night, my parents and I also attended it. To tell the truth, I did not want to go, but my parents argued me, "You must hold a memorial service for him. You will feel bad if something weird happens, right?" The ceremony was rather strange. Unlike a general kind of vigil, there was not his portrait placed over the body. Instead of that, numerous sheets of paper with his name on were pasted tightly on the side of the coffin, which diffused creepy feelings to prevent me from accessing it. According A's uncle, if the portrait is placed, the face on the photo will be deformed. The degree of transformation is too uncanny to see, so that this neighborhood has a ceremony in this way. The reason we paste sheets of papers, with decreased person's name on the coffin, is to demonstrate he is not but A. Nonsense at all. I was put off by a too weird explanation. A's father talked to me, "We're very sorry for annoying you," and showed me A's last letter and the one he wrote when he had left the house. But I never wanted to read it then. The content of the former was as I wrote above, but the latter was like this: "You had been possessed by it, who was always watching me to kill. My uncle had exorcised the evil for you to become safe, but it seemed I was possessed after that. Because my father can never exorcise it, I'm going to my mother's. If it follows me on the way, I'm going to another." Because A's parents were separated, he seemed with a view to going to his mother's parents' home, and went missing. I don't know why, but the police treated him, not as a missing person, but as just a runaway child. I thought I should not have read it at all. He made mention of it, that was nonsense. But I remembered considerably of unrealistic things which had happened before that day, and came to tremble with fear. The fact that A had killed himself in the morning amplified my fear, and I really wanted not to stay there. I was never insane, but they were, I thought. In the ceremony without sutra, the coffin was placed in an odd place like a one-story house and plastered closely with amulets with A's name written on it. Furthermore, several among the relatives were even laughing. Although I had heard of a creepy story, about people called professional keeners in Korea or other, who attend to funerals just to cry out in a loud manner, the way of a funeral inherited in that community was entirely abnormal rather than creepy. My parents seemed to be scared of that situation as expected, so that we greeted in haste and left the ceremonial hall. Let's go back soon. In a few days after that, A's uncle told my parents that his mother, grandmother for A, had become, I think it's a kind of ghosts, and possessed me. It never mattered to me any longer, but I was told to hear it. Someone having killed oneself by jumping had been also born in backside of S district and followed by. A's uncle did not know the reason the ghost cursed me, but I could get possessed when I visited A's home. And so on. Then, I asked him about two things I had been scared of. 1. The face I watched before I had been knocked out by him. 2. Someone at the stairs who should have jumped out, and tried to run up to the body. A's uncle answered. About the latter, the dead are often unaware they have been already dead. So that, he found himself under the stairs and tried to collect the body, I think. But, if the ghost becomes obstructed at that point, he will put a curse. However, when I argued that I had never disturbed the ghost, A's uncle became rather judgmental.
Hey, you called for an elevator, huh? The sound peep disturbed it.
I almost jumped back with fear. My parents also became rather frightened. A's uncle continued with such a tone.
Hey, you mustn't look at it. I'm permitted, but you are not. Don't look at me, don't, huh? Hey, listen to me. Say.
My father finally got angry. What the hell are you saying? What's the point of scarifying my son? Then, A's uncle was startled, and said in unusual tone, I'm sorry. Because the ghost had come, I would try to ask him a bit. I'm very sorry. He continued to wonder to himself.
You having said he should not have watched, it was never what he wanted. Isn't it enough already? Huh.
After that he said to me, you are absolutely okay now. I'm very sorry. This ghost seems to have been also followed by. Got angry for it, and came to you. About my first question, it was. He said. I wondered if the name of. Was probably spoken in either a foreign language or dialect. Although A's grandma had become. His father avoided exorcising the ghost, because it had been unbearable for his father, to erase her soul. But A's father had finally made a resolve to erase her soul. Because his son had passed away. So he finished exorcism the day before calling me. After that, A's uncle took his farewell. And we saw him off at the entrance. As soon as he went out, we heard of him laughing suddenly. I was startled, and collapsed to my knees. Father said, like shouting with either fear or true anger, after all, the ones over there are insane. Mother said with her tearful eyes, we should never contact with them anymore. Although told that they exorcise evil spirits with laughing, I could never consider of someone, as my fellow man raising such a laughing voice, at the moment he went out from the entrance. After all his laughter had faded, we all came to be able to move finally, and went back to a living room. When I said, they must be insane, absolutely abnormal. By the way, did that fellow go home by an elevator? My father replied, don't call him that fellow. He is older than you even for an instant. Phew. Never contact with them anymore, and went to the entrance in order to lock with a key. Just after that, because I heard an angry voice, get the out of here now, I was likely to have my heart stop beating. Mother also screamed in fright, yikes. When my father locked the door, he found an evening paper had been delivered into the mailbox, so that he tried to take it from the inside. However, because the paper was caught in upper part of the mailbox, he went out the entrance to take it. And he found that A's uncle was still smirking at an elevator hall. My father was enraged to shout to that fellow, probably with fear, I'll call the police. The next door neighbor also came out, and A's uncle was saying, oh, no, I'm going home from now or other. As soon as saying that, he started laughing again, and took an elevator to go home. My father cried aloud, bring the fricking salt here, and was scattering salt with bloody fury, which is enough to let the neighbors suspect if he was a loony too. After that, I went to a famous shrine with my parents, got purified, and moved out of the apartment. Because I did not leave S district, I could have kept going to the same school if I wanted. But I begged to be transferred to school in another area, and I have not approached the backside of S district at all, since then. Although they have replaced its former name of the place to new S district, the character of the area still remains the same. They are still giving students education about ostracized communities in a school where my cousin goes, in order to integrate Burakumin into our society. Without any specific name of such a community, students are informed about real existence of discrimination. There is no information given about the backside of S district. It seems that if someone calls it back S, some teachers show overreaction, and revise that as new S. I think it's caused by humanitarianism, or something typical of Kyushu, and the Japan Teachers Union with their ideology of human rights. I have no idea about what A's uncle is doing now, because I have ruptured a connection with him. Although my parents did not hold a sense of discrimination against the backside of S district before that incident, they have rather instinctive dislike about it now, and avoid from contacting with people in that area. No spiritual event has happened to me since then, but a shame of myself, I can neither take an elevator without anyone, nor sleep alone, so that even my wife is looking down on me. Right after that incident, I used to get my body and heart filled up with enough fear to wake up my parents, every time when I went to restroom at night. Despite I was a high school student. In front of someone born in the backside of S district, I get just inspired of fearfulness all over my body, rather than discriminatory feelings, which makes me unable to talk with him even now. I'm sorry for my poor and rather long writing. I just put it as what I have experience with. You must be tired from reading.
How do you like it? After a series of writing, a reader pointed out that Nami is probably Ura-S-ku, known as a path of demons or monsters in a folk tale at some areas in Okayama. It is said to be a narrow, straight, and enough long road not to see its end, because an evil spirit is said to prefer such a kind. They avoid traditionally building structures in such a place for fear of the calamity. It is called Nawasuji in Hyogo and Sakai City, Kagawa, as well. This Nawasuji could be considered to get corrupted into Ura-S-ku. On the other hand, the formal name and nature of Bara, a kind of ghosts which A's grandmother is likely to have metamorphosed into, still remains unknown. Now, it's time to part for a short while. Wish meet you again.